This episode is brought to you by HP Plus. In a world full of smart devices, isn't it about time your printer got smart too? Now printing is smart with HP Plus, and the HP Smart app is how it all happens. You can print from your phone with just a tap, no matter where you are, even from your garage/home office/yoga studio. Huh, that is smart. HP Plus. Learn more about smart printing at hp.com/smart.
Week 1 may be over, but the season is just getting started at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off Week 2, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up, because you don't want to miss this. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any Week 2 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Keim to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code Keim, K-E-I-M, this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Today, we're previewing the game against the New York Giants with ESPN reporter Jordan Raanan, who of course covers the team and is very blunt and honest about his assessment of the New York Giants. Here's the thing that's hard to figure. The Giants are 12-4 against Washington in the last 8 years. This makes no sense whatsoever. During that time, New York has finished 48-81 with one winning season. Again, it makes no sense at all. Of course, what does make sense is that Washington during the same time is 48-80-1. So they're a half game better. So maybe it does make sense. Still, it suggests they're even. 12-4 isn't even. The Giants have outscored Washington by 121 points over the last 8 years. And listen, I know that none of that matters because what only matters is the here and now. And then last year the Giants were 2-0 against them, and that didn't make sense either. So why do I keep picking Washington in this game? Because I can't believe this futility can continue. It just doesn't make sense. Part of me says to just pick the Giants until Washington proves they can win this game. Maybe that's a smarter play. The other part, that other dude on my shoulder, on the other shoulder, says one day I'll be right. So I'll keep picking Washington this game because every time they play them, the Giants stink, and then they don't. Logically, those picks often made sense. It's not as if I even picked Washington each time. I did not. I don't think I picked them twice last year. But man, I picked them more often than not, and most of the time they lose. So brace yourselves, folks. I'm picking them again. This is a crucial game for Ron Rivera and his staff and the team. Not because they're in any kind of trouble, of course, but because of the first half schedule they have, and also without Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's not a great quarterback, but and I've told you before, I thought he was an upgrade over last year. So he's a legitimate professional starting quarterback. You know, I know all these fans have hope with Taylor Heineke, but that's all it is hope. There's no track record to suggest he can be a long-term solution. We're going to find out. Not to say I'm not going to tell you he's not. I don't think over the long haul that that's the guy that they're going to go with, but can he be that guy this year? I don't know. My guess is, and I've said this before, I think he's more of a short-term solution guy, but he's going to have that chance. And I think he plays a fun style of play, and let's see. I will say this, as a team, they can't start the season 0-2 and at home. By the way, the crowd was not the size of those in the past, or at least the past of the glory years, even 5 years ago. But they were into the game, and they provided energy. This team needs to do a lot better job to win folks back to the stadium. It's on them, folks, not you. Anyway, here's why I'm picking Washington. First, listen to Jordan after this section. You're going to probably pick him too. Daniel Jones is not playing behind the same offensive line that Justin Herbert was for the Chargers. And I think the tackles are a major issue for New York. They happen to be facing two excellent young players in Montez Sweat and Chase Young. It's hard to imagine that Saquon Barkley will be much of a problem at this point in his return. I don't think New York can win just by passing the ball. I think there's too much inconsistencies with that pass game with Kenny Golladay, not missing a lot of time, Kadarius Toney missing a lot of time, and the tight end Evan Ingram has missed time. Daniel Jones is not Justin Herbert. I think Young, after a so-so game at best against the Chargers, will respond on national TV. Guys like that show up in games like this. The big question I have is how will Heinicke hold up? The Giants now have 7 quarters of recent game film on him, which is a lot more than anyone else has had on him. But I also like the way he plays. I mean, he does go through his progressions. He does provide a spark. He is not a big guy. That's the durability question. He does not have a big arm, but he anticipates well. So, and he can make plays on the go, which helps compensate for all those deficiencies. Again, durability. But he's going to have to make some throws against the Giants because they're tough to run against. Denver's backs gained 146 yards and 25 carries against them, but 70 came on one Melvin Ingram run. However, Teddy Bridgewater hurt them a little bit with his legs. Remember that. But in the 2 games last year against the Giants, Washington averaged just 3.73 yards per carry. I like the Giants D. I don't think it's great, but I think it's very good. I believe Heinicke can win a few games in the short term at the very least. I worry about him again. I worry about him as a long-term answer. I think you have to, because we don't know. And I know in talking to a lot of people around the league, they view him as a backup, in part because of the arm, the durability, etc. But we'll see. And he can prove me and many others wrong, and it's going to be fun to see what he can do. I am looking forward to watching him play. I think the defense plays well. I think Heinicke does a good job finding the playmakers against a solid defense. It won't be easy, but given the upcoming schedule, this is a pivotal game for Washington. I believe they respond. I think DeAndre Carter busts one at some point too. Don't put your money on that, but that's watching the guy last week. I just think he's going to bust one at some point. Anyway, Washington 20, Giants 17. Now, after this break, I'll be back with Jordan Raanan to discuss the New York Giants. They have issues. And by the way, you can follow Jordan on Twitter at Jordan Raanan. That's Jordan, Raanan. Prosper Insurance has an offer that's tough to beat and will benefit you one way or another. When you get a quote with Prosper Insurance, if they can't beat your home or auto quote, they will send you an official Washington football team legend jersey. Of course, if they do beat it, you'll be able to afford your own jersey or 2. I can tell you from experience, the quote I received was $2,000 less than my previous insurer. It might not be like that for everyone, but why not find out? Finding the right insurance can be a pain, but Prosper makes it easy while providing great service and advice. Their licensed advisors shop the market with top companies like Allstate, Nationwide, Progressive, Travelers, and more to find you the perfect coverage at a great rate, which helps explain why Prosper has more than 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. You have nothing to lose. Simply visit prosper.insurance/Keim to get your quote and a possible Washington football team legend jersey. That's prosper.insurance/Keim, Keim. This offer is good from September 13th to September 30th. You know what else is cool? They plant a tree for every policy they write. That's more than 66,000 trees and counting. Get ready to feel good about your insurance. Welcome back. Now here's my conversation with ESPN's Jordan Raanan. All right, Jordan, why does it always seem that when these two teams play, there's drama on one side or both sides, and for like the Giants, it's always like the biggest game of the year, and for Washington, it's another statement game. Why does it seem like we're always in this position?
Washington's always got quarterback drama. Surprise,
Yes.
surprise.
Yeah.
Instability at quarterback. I mean, that's what it seems like. Giants have owned them recently, though.
I
John.
know.
I mean, they got their number. I don't know if there's anything to that at this point or what, but yeah, I don't know. It's probably because they're both bad teams for the most part over the last decade or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is, like, the Giants have actually been worse than Washington, which is always hard to believe. But that's it. But then it's funny.
But yet they own that. But
I know.
They own the head-to-head recently.
It doesn't make sense.
Which doesn't even make sense. Yeah.
As you know, like, I feel like I always pick this game wrong, and I've told you this before, because I always keep thinking there's no way they can keep losing to the Giants and Daniel Jones, and yet. So And even with Taylor Heineke.
I picked the Giants to lose in week 1. My eyes say, oh, they're going to lose this game too. Offensively, they're just not going to be good enough. But I'm going to pick the Giants because they just seem to beat Washington. And Daniel Jones only plays against Washington for some reason.
And so, why is that? Why is that?
Fair question. I have no idea. It's not like Washington's got this terrible defense.
No.
That it's a great matchup for Daniel Jones, and all of a sudden he throws some touchdown passes because. So I really don't know. It's one of these nonsensical things. I know we've seen it in the division before. The Giants lost to the Cowboys 12 straight times or whatever up until recently last year. That ended. They were like that with the Eagles at one point. The Eagles dominated and won, double digits in a row, and then the Giants won a huge streak. And I don't know if there's any. You know what the thing is? There's not even something you can really put your finger on, because if you think about it, they're not even running the same systems and everything throughout all these wins. So it's just, I think, luck of the draw, John.
It is. At least when Eli was there, you could understand because the way he could pick apart a defense at times. But this one is really hard to explain. Looking at the Giants, what is Saquon Barkley's? I guess I know his status. I know he's playing, but where do you think he's at with his return?
Yeah, I went back over the film yesterday, and I saw some things with Saquon, and you're like, that's not, Saquon Barkley we know and love, right? Like, that's not the guy everybody wants to see on the football field for an entertainment purposes, like hitting the holes, just having that explosion that you're used to. It wasn't there in the opener. Now, I wouldn't go nuts about that if I'm the Giants or Saquon or anybody, because he's coming back from a major injury. I know Adrian Peterson came back once upon a time and ran for 2,000 yards, 9 months after he suffered he tore his ACL. But it doesn't happen for most. I think most guys, don't just come back and immediately have it, right? That explosion. It takes some time. I mean, there was no real preseason, so you'll see something similar to what was out there in the opener. Let's say close to 50% of the snaps he played in the opener. That might even be less, because think about it. It's pretty absurd to have to come back from a serious injury. You play your first game back, and then you're going to come back and play 3 days later.
Right.
Really, really awkward situation. So I would say, little less than 50% of the snaps, a quality player, but not the explosive, dominant Saquon that we saw his rookie year.
What were some of the big concerns that you came out of after that opening loss to Denver?
Whoa, hold on. Let me open my notebook. There's like 50 of them in here, for God's sakes. Giants were awful in that game. The biggest disappointment was their defense. That's supposed to be their better unit, top 10 unit last year.
I'm familiar with that line.
Good, talented secondary, but boy, they got shredded. And the lack of pass rush is the problem with that group. They don't have natural edge rushers, and they can't get consistent pressure off the edges. I mean, they're like the opposite. They're like the anti-Washington football team when it comes to that. I mean, they're built completely differently. And they have to sort of manufacture that pressure. And it didn't work the other day. They did a little bit, but I mean, Teddy Bridgewater stood back there and had a sandwich before some passes, and then he tore apart the Giants. And that was disappointing. The offense was kind of predictably disappointing. We knew the Giants haven't had a lot of their guys play in the preseason. They had Kenny Golladay was injured. Saquon's coming back from injury. Kadarius Toney, their first-round pick, really didn't practice from the day he was drafted until September. So, to expect him to come out and be good early in the season against a good Broncos defense was always unrealistic. And to be quite honest with you, the expectation is probably pretty similar here in week 2, because I know Washington didn't play great in week 1, but they still have a pretty good defense, and it's not going to be easy for the Giants to go around there and move the ball against that defense. So not expecting a lot of points And their offensive line, obviously, the Giants. It always comes back to that.
And how did they look, though? But how did they look, and how did Thomas look? Because he was a big question mark.
I saw some things on the tape that would concern me a little bit this week with Andrew Thomas. He was fine in the game. Not great, but fine. He was okay. He had a decent game. But remember, Bradley Chubb did not play.
Right.
Okay. So he kind of got a reprieve. And that's kind of what we saw this summer. When he played against lesser competition, he was fine. But when he had to play against the better competition, it got ugly. So now, to me, there was still some reasons to be concerned. There was too many snaps I saw where him just get completely disengaged by the defender. And, when you got Chase Young and Montez Sweat, it's a little different beast. The offensive line as a whole, Nate Solder was the one who I thought struggled even more at the right tackle spot. He got pushed around. That's a spot. I mean, I don't know if Nate Solder, quite frankly, has anything left in him, to be honest with you. I really don't. I don't know if he's even going to start.
Wow.
Matt Parrott, you might see a little bit more. They were battling for that spot this summer. Matt Parrott didn't win it. They put Nate Solder in. That has been bad from everything we've seen so far. So, I mean, their tackle spot's not in a great spot at the moment. And really, they're not great at any position, which is kind of the problem.
What did Galladay? Oh, first of all, Sterling Shepard did seem to have a good game. Is he like the one guy they can rely on offense right now?
Yeah, because you know who the only guy that was healthy and on the field for all of training camp and the summer was Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard's a really good player. You know what I've been telling people recently? They're like, we talk. Everyone wants to talk about fantasy, right? Like, well, Shepard's not that good, right? I'm like, do you understand? Like, Sterling Shepard's a solid, good player in this league. Like, if he was like the second or third receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs, he'd be like a guy you wanted to draft in fantasy. You'd want to have on your team. He produced all over the place. Instead, he's stuck on a Giants offense that, quite frankly, has stunk the last 3 years. And, he's a good player on a bad offense. But the dude can get open. He's a quality player. He was definitely their best receiver. As for Kenny Galladay, this is why I told you the expectation for the Giants offense heading into week 1 was like, they're really going to struggle, probably week 2 too, because you watch Kenny Galladay, you watch Saquon, you're watching these guys on the field that haven't practiced in forever. Kenny Galladay missed a month with a hamstring injury. So he's coming back. He's not his normal. I mean, he's not built on explosion anyway.
Right.
But he's not this big. You don't see the explosion from him or him moving especially well right now, or at least last week I didn't. So, I mean, he got some catches and yards. They were all at the end of the game when the game was pretty much over. But the separation just isn't there for Galladay at this point. I think he'll probably be better this week. But again, 3 days, it's a tough ask for guys.
One practice. And really one practice too. So it's not even like you get a lot more time on the field with your
I don't
guys.
know. What's Washington doing? I don't even think the Giants are doing a real practice. I think they're doing like an hour.
It's more like a
tempo walkthrough.
Yeah. So it's not even.
I mean, it's kind of just to get their legs moving and get the blood flowing. That's really what it is. So I think Kenny Galladay can contribute. I don't think he's like the number one. He's at the level right now where you're like, oh, he's the number one receiver that the Giants got. I think Washington's getting them at a good time. I think if you got the Giants in like week 4 or 5, it's way different than getting them in weeks 1 or 2 this year.
So you're going to make me pick Washington again, just based on this.
I mean, everything says pick Washington, except the fact that the Giants, for some reason, only play against Washington.
It's amazing.
Taylor Heineke is back. And Taylor Heineke, while he has done fairly well in his limited playing time, he is a backup quarterback in this league. That's what Washington signed him for, to be a backup quarterback. So,
well,
Patrick Graham's good at scheming up stuff and confusing quarterbacks. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on.
And that's something to watch too. But where also did Teddy Bridgewater hurt them? He had the injury and all that. Did he hurt him with his legs at all?
Teddy Bridgewater did a really good job of navigating the pocket and moving and making plays outside of the pocket. And, they just did whatever they wanted, to be honest with you. I mean, you name it, and they did it. Teddy Bridgewater actually had KJ Hamler drop like a 50-yard touchdown pass on him, like right in his hands. I mean, wide open. Teddy Bridgewater actually underthrew another deep ball that, his guy was open by about 7 yards. He underthrew it, and it hit the defender in the back. Like, they even left some meat on the bone. They fumbled inside the 5-yard line. They left some meat on the bone. And the Giants, what was it? They gave up 27. It could have easily been 34-40. I mean, or, into the 40s. So that's how Denver had success. They did whatever they wanted. Because when they went back to pass, John, the Giants just could not pressure Teddy Bridgewater.
See, and again, this is how they always enter this game, coming off a really bad stretch, a really bad loss, or whatever. Has Daniel Jones looked any different to you this summer? And I know, including the game, but since camp opened?
Man, you want to I got a story running this week about how the Giants are so sold on Daniel Jones, right? Like, they're bullish, like they believe it. I think Sterling Shepard said to me something like, he's like, you see it every day on the field. I'm like, nobody cares what I think, Sterling. What do you think? And he's like, look, if you can't see it and you watch him every day, you're blind. Well, I don't know. My vision must be a little blurry right now, because I see a guy who could be like, I know Daniel Jones is a starting caliber quarterback in this league. He's a middle of the road starting caliber quarterback. The question is, can he get to that next level and be better? Right? He can do a lot of things. Trust me. He needs a supporting cast around him, which he really hasn't had, the last 2 years. But the fumble, man, the fumble just ruins everything. And it popped up again the other day. And you just want to be like, man, just get that out of the repertoire, man. That's really the one thing that irks me. And I need to see some more splash plays from him. I saw him play. He was fine the other day. He was certainly not the reason that they lost. I mean, not even close. But that one turnover was just so costly. I mean, I think it's 17-7 at that point, middle of the third quarter. Giants are driving, and they're just outside of the red zone, I think, maybe like at the 22-ish. And Daniel Jones is running for a nice gain. First down, John, first down. So he's running. He's got about a good 8 yards. They're in the red zone, 17-7, middle of the third quarter, and he fumbles it. And that pretty much ended the game. That ended the game. You want to see him get rid of that, and it's year 3 and it popped up again. And it's discouraging. But to think that Daniel Jones can't go out there and play well and do good things, I think you're being foolish.
Right. And that's what he's shown, and certainly against this team. Last thing, what's your I know what your confidence level rating was. Is a 4.2 on our new 10-point scale. I think mine was a 5.0. But what's your confidence?
Fans would say I was way too high, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they say they are demoralized Giants fans. They are a wounded fan base, man.
And trust me, I think we're talking to the same fan bases here, because after this one, I get a lot of, people jumping off bridges and things like that, and I don't blame them. Like, both fan bases, these teams need to give these fan bases a reason to believe that they're going to turn it around. And here it's because another quarterback got injured, and there's for other reasons. But these fan bases are definitely emotionally scarred, and I don't blame them, because neither play. I mean, was it one winning season in 10 years for the Giants, and for this team, it's like 2 playoff wins in 20 some years. And it's ridiculous what these fan bases, these are great fan bases too, I
mean, imagine that. I mean, I'm not going to feel too bad for them. I mean, there's these fan bases have some Super Bowls under their belt. I mean, why don't we go talk to some Lions fans? Okay.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Let's go talk to some Lions fans about the poor Giants in Washington. Oh, my God. They have it so tough over there, let me tell you. You know,
it'll be soon.
Imagine you're a Lions fan. I mean, can you even remember the last time the Lions won a playoff game? Can you remember the last time the Lions really played in a playoff game?
Well, I do, because they played this team. I know when one of those games
really?
they did. In 1999, this team beat them at home. And then in the 91 Super Bowl run, they beat the Lions at home as well. So I do remember. So I'm one of the few.
Hey, John, 99 was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
22 years.
I
mean, poor Lions fans. But no, point taken. It's been a rough run for these franchises.
It's been a rough run for this. So last thing then, what's your confidence that this team, that the Giants can get it turned around, and when?
I do think that they'll play better this week. I think we'll have a tightly contested, low-scoring game. I would be surprised if the defense played as poorly as it did the other day, especially against a quarterback that I really do think Patrick Graham was great last year. I mean, he was a stud as the Giants defensive coordinator. I'd be surprised if he can't scheme up enough to, really make things difficult mentally for Taylor Heineke. So I kind of do like the Giants in this game to bounce back and play significantly better, because trust me, they're hearing it. Do you know that they haven't won an opener now? This was the 5th straight year they haven't won an opener. And usually, I think out of 4 of three of them, yeah, maybe even all 4, the previous ones, it was 0-2.
Yeah.
So they know how big this game is for them. If they lose this game, they come home the following week to play Atlanta. That stadium, I'm telling you, is going to not greet them warmly when they come back. If they come back 0-2, I mean, I'm telling you, this fan base is as restless as I've ever seen it. They know that the Giants need to prove to them, like you said before, with Washington,
right?
They need to prove to them that there's something to be excited about, that there's something that they should give them, that undying support that they so want to give this team and this organization. And that was once like a given for the Giants. Like, the Giants, like selling tickets to the Giants was they had a wait list for 50 years. Well, guess what?
Know.
Now the Giants are sending emails to ticket holders the week of the game, the opener against the Broncos, about, get limited tickets, 2 days before the game. That's where we are. That's where we're at.
Trust me, I know that very well here, and it's the same thing. But maybe if the fans are restless and booing them, maybe they can just start turning, holding their thumbs down after big plays like the Mets did. That seemed to go over well.
There we go. Yeah, start to keep the trend going.
There you
New York's on a really awesome run of sports right now. Let me tell you.
Well, and again, nobody's going to feel bad for that city, so I'm not.
Obviously, I know that. I mean, well, the Yankees don't have enough championships for everybody. I know.
All right, Jordan. Well, thanks a lot, man.
Anytime, John. We'll do it again soon, man.
All right. That's it for this episode. I'll be back with another one after Thursday's game. Talk to you next time.